What drew you together initially?
Well, for me it was...
You take it.
Well, for me it was respect, and frankly it was the fact that Galina's stuff has such a strong emphasis on ecstasy and that direct engagement with the gods and spirits. That, I think, is so missing in the bulk of contemporary polytheism. It's all very, passive and cautious and hold back and don't give too much and don't, and that is anathema to a Dionysian. We're all about throwing yourself into it and frenzy and intensity, and I can respect that in another person's practice, and frankly that's a big part of why I'm so interested in Odin, because he has those qualities too, and I like ecstasy, I like frenzy, so anything that has that is good in my book.
I just think the ladies in the pink building, Oshun, Aphrodite, Freya, did me a solid. I mean, come on, he's hot. And he's brilliant. And his work is serious. It smells right. I am, on a purely professional level, the fact that you're doing the work and you are absolutely and utterly devoted to Dionysus, to the exclusion of all else, and that you are about serving Dionysus and furthering his veneration and getting people right with their gods and their dead, that's what I do as well, and that's what needs to be done. But then the ladies in the pink building did me a solid.
How much free will do you think we actually have, and how much would it be the will of the gods that own us, or just maybe a divine design in our life?
For
what happens in our life.
That's a hard question, because I think that if you are God-owned, you have automatically consented to handing over your free will to the deity that owns you.
I don't know about that. I think everything is a choice.
We have a choice to serve well or poorly.
Exactly.
It's always a choice.
And, you can have the choice to face the consequences of not doing what you're supposed to.
That's very true.
I mean, I just see too many people that are on this path and are God-owned and not really doing what they're supposed to. And mind you, that's not my judgment on them, because I don't really care what anybody else does.
Oh,
frankly.
I care when it makes more work for me.
So many times you see people say, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is my title, and then, they kind of just mess around and don't really do what they're supposed to and drag their feet, and then and then they wonder why their luck is so bad and why they have all these obstacles in their life, and I think we have free will, but
I don't think anything else. You work. I mean, it's a working relationship, and there's two sides to that relationship. There's you and how you choose to embrace the obligations that you have accepted, and then there's the deity part of that. I mean, like any other relationship, it can work very well or it can work very poorly. There's
and
a
I
synergy
think you
there.
get a direct proportion to what you put in. If you put in a lot of effort, you're going to get a lot back, and if you give miserably, don't be surprised.
It's hard for me to answer the question, because for me there's no other choice but to do what it wants.
Yeah, and that's how I feel too. With Dionysus, I mean, I have very little interest in anything that isn't directly related to him and the work that he's given me to do, but theoretically.
And you always have a choice in how you do it, and then how you do that will affect your luck, and that will affect your life circumstances. I mean, in the end, we have a choice in how we do what it is that we're given to do. But there's, I wish that I could remember the quote. I think it's a Martha Graham quote. I have it on my blog somewhere. That every one of us came into this world with sacred work that was ours to do, with an unleashing of creativity in some way, shape, or form, with things that is there for us to express and us to take up. And if we shirk that, if we don't do that, then it's lost. It's never going to get done, because no one else can do it.
And related to that, I think we have to do that work enthusiastically and joyfully. The gods don't need martyrs. They don't need people that are grudgingly
Look how well it worked for Christians.
Yep. And so I think that is really important, especially for me as a Dionysian, is to do everything joyfully and enthusiastically and with my full heart. And if I can't do that, I just don't do it. you know, because it's not worth it to give him crap, you know, he deserves my best. And
that's a lesson Segan taught me. I've been chided by Odin before. He's like, I wish you would do some of the hard things with a little more grace. And it was Segan that taught me about taking joy in the work, because we call it work, but it should be a joy. There should be a joy in serving your gods well. Someone once said to me that in bloat, there is no room for joy. And I thought, what the fuck are you doing it for then?
yeah,
How can going to your gods not be a joy? I mean, yes, I understand there's the numinous tremendans et fascinans. There's the holy terror when one is in the divine presence. But at the same time, embracing the sacred and letting it breathe itself into the pattern of your life should be a joy. And if it's not, I think you need to look at what you're doing.
and you know, like, not to diminish the work, because a lot of times this is excruciatingly hard and it makes a lot of demands on you, but I think people forget that we are interacting with gods, you know, like, that is amazing. These are gods that people have been talking about for centuries and centuries and centuries, and, you know, interwoven into our art and our culture and our history, and I talk to them.
And they
That's
talk
freaking
back.
amazing. Yeah.
They talk back.
And so I think we should always have that sense of awe, and this is an amazing, amazing thing that's happening, and approach our work with that, you know, and that joy and reverence.
Yeah. One of my obligations, one of my taboos that I have twice over, both as an Orisha priest and as a priest of Odin, is that I have to be absolutely clear when it's me. So if I'm doing work for someone and I am conveying something that I am getting from one of the gods, I must be absolutely clear to the best of my capacity when I am shading that. I might have to not shade it, but I have to be clear.
Yeah.
When I'm doing my work in terms of motivation, I don't always know, because I've joked before that I have whatever ethics Odin needs me to have at any given time, and it's true. There are headspaces that he can put me in where I'm like a glove on his hand. And then it's like, well, my will is his.
Yeah, but anytime that, you know, like, I'm doing stuff for other people, I always try to be very careful to filter myself out of that and
God, yeah.
just let, you know, Dionysus through. And I also always take a precaution to check and say, you know, do an additional divination. Was this right? Is this what you want to say to this person? And, you know, so.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's check and double check. Is there a particular situation that I could answer more specifically if you... I won't be offended.
No, it was just more like, I feel like for myself, every area of my life ends up getting influenced, even
Absolutely.
to the very mundane things. And
There are no mundane things.
right,
That's what I
no,
have
that's,
to.
And so I feel like there's not, and I felt myself that I had less free will than people like to pretend like we have.
Or you have more mindfulness than people like to pretend that they don't have.
Right. So,
And I think the deeper you get in your relationship with a particular deity, the more such distinctions blur. I mean, like, honestly, I have no idea why Dionysus picked me, because back then I was such a different person, and, you know, very closed off, very intellectual, stuck in my head, and, you know, I'm a completely different person now. And I don't know how much is his influence and how much is me making an effort to change myself to be more in line with that. But I think at some point it stops mattering, because, you know, I have this image of what he wants me to be that he's given me, and so I aspire to be that. And
Absolutely. And there are no for me, with the way that Odin is woven into my life, there is no mundane. I mean, okay, before Sannion and I got together, do you know how much divination we did?
Oh yeah.
To make sure that it was okay with both of our gods. I mean, it's one thing that what I call euphemistically the ladies in the pink building, Aphrodite, Freya, Oshun, etc., that these blessed goddesses would give us this, but we got to check it with the ones that own us.
And, you know,
There's nothing mundane.
The whole relationship is, you know, hedged in by the work, because if the relationship stops furthering the work or interferes with it, it's done. There's not even a question about that. And that's not to say that I don't have deep affection for her.
Right, but that's not the point.
The work comes first, the gods come first, and that's not even a question.
Yeah, and fortunately,
Yeah.
it's been great for the work, but that's always something that that we know. I'm doing the academic degree that I'm doing because Odin told me to, and I live where I live because that's what he told me to do. And of course, we check and double check this with divination and spiritual consultations, but this. I am his Godetheo, I am his god slave, and I am his wife, and he has a right to determine everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I would not put up a boundary. Now, sometimes I stumble because my human understanding is not as far-seeing as his is, and that's led to a lot of pain at different times. But it sorts itself out.
Yeah, and just because you have this goal and this aspiration doesn't mean you're always going to get it right.
Yeah.
You're going to screw up because you're human, and so you just have to pick yourself up and keep going and
Yeah.
try harder.